there is a superstition. An old wives' tale whispered in coastal towns where the fog rolls in thick and swallows the world whole. They say that the sailors lost at sea are not truly gone. They say their absence becomes a presence of its own. A cold spot in a warm room, a sudden melancholy on a sunny day, a weight in the air just before a storm. The women of the town, they say, love these phantom men more fiercely than they ever loved the living ones. They court the memory. They set a place at the table for the silence. They embroider the ghost's name onto pillows. The living men, with their calloused hands and their loud laughter and their desperate, clumsy need. They cannot compete. They are merely there, solid, predictable, and therefore invisible. This is the first and most ruthless truth you must swallow, right down to the bitter root. The game of seduction, of investment, is not a game of addition. It is a game of subtraction. We are taught to add, to send another text, to buy another gift, to offer another compliment, another piece of ourselves, another hour of our time, laying it all down like cheap trinkets at her feet, hoping the sheer volume of our tribute will somehow make us worthy. We become tireless salesmen of our own affection, hawking our hearts on the street corner. And we are surprised when she walks past, bored by the desperation of our pitch. The true master of this dark art understands gravity. Not the loud, boisterous gravity of a star, burning brightly, screaming, "Look at me!" No. The silent, terrifying gravity of a black hole. A black hole gives nothing. It does not shine. It does not offer warmth. It does not send messages into the void. It simply is, and its existence creates a deficit in the universe, a region of profound and total lack. And everything, light, matter, time itself, is pulled inexorably into that void. Your absence must become that event horizon. Think of it in the stark, cold language of modern psychology. There's a principle they call the Zeigarnik effect, a beautiful, clinical name for a simple human torture. The brain, you see, has a pathological hatred for open loops. It obsesses over unfinished tasks, incomplete stories, unanswered questions. It will dedicate a disproportionate amount of its cognitive resources to filling in the blanks. When you are always there, always available, always answering before she's even finished asking the question, you are a closed book, a finished story. Satisfying for a moment, and then utterly forgettable. But when you vanish, when the conversation is left hanging, pregnant with unspoken possibilities, when the pattern of your presence is broken, you become an open loop in her mind. You are no longer a person. You are a puzzle, a mystery, a haunting. The silence you leave behind is not empty. It is a canvas, and she will fill it. With what? With her thoughts, her anxieties, her fantasies, her frustrations. She will replay your last conversation. She will scrutinize your words. She will invent narratives. Is he with someone else? Did I say something wrong? Who is this man, really? And each narrative is a thread of her own psychic energy woven into the tapestry of you. This isn't about playing hard to get. That is a child's game of tactical retreat. This is about cultivating a life so dense, so full, so utterly your own, that your absence is a natural consequence of your purpose. You are not pretending to be busy. You are building your empire. You are wrestling with your demons. You are lost in the labyrinth of your own work, your own art, your own thoughts. Your focus is a fortress, and she is outside the walls. Her desire to enter becomes her obsession. A 2024 study on digital attachment patterns noted that unpredictable response latency from a desired partner created higher levels of cortical arousal than consistent, rapid responses. They gave it a sterile name, of course. But what they were measuring was the exquisite agony of waiting, the very agony the women in the fog-drenched town feel for their lost sailors. They were measuring the birth of investment born from a void. The average man thinks his power lies in what he can give her, his time, his attention, his resources. And so he gives and gives and gives until he is an empty vessel, hollowed out and discarded. The wise man, the ruthless man, knows his power lies in what he holds back, in the part of himself that remains unconquered, unknown, unpossessed. He creates a sacred space within himself, a sanctuary of solitude that no one can enter. His absence from her world is simply his presence in his own. And the paradox is this: the more you exist for yourself, the more you will exist for her. The less space you try to occupy in her life, the more you will occupy in her mind. You become the silence between the notes of her day, the pause that gives the music its meaning. So, here is my question for you, whispered from this candlelit tomb to your glowing screen. Look at your phone, feel its cold, smooth weight in your hand. Consider the last message you sent and the one you are about to send. Which carries more power? The 1,000 words you pour out, hoping to fill her silence? Or the profound, deafening, magnificent silence you offer instead, letting her pour her entire world into you? Perfection demands admiration. Imperfection demands love. Picture in your mind an antique shop late at night. The air is thick with the ghosts of forgotten lives, the scent of cedar, dust, and decay. In a glass cabinet, under the moonlight filtering through a grimy window, sit 2 porcelain dolls. One is perfect. Her paint is immaculate. Her smile is a flawless, factory-made curve. Her glass eyes are vacant and serene. She is beautiful, and she is sterile. You might admire her, but you will never feel for her. Beside her sits another doll. She is almost identical, but for one detail: a single hairline crack running from the corner of her eye down her cheek, like a frozen tear. The crack is a flaw. It is damage. It is a story. And suddenly, this doll is not an object anymore. She has a history. She has suffered. She is tragic, and because she is tragic, she is infinitely more beautiful. Your hand wants to reach out. Your mind wants to know her story. The crack is not a flaw. It is a doorway. We are raised on the mythology of the knight in shining armor, the flawless hero, the man with no chinks in his emotional or physical defense. We spend our lives polishing this armor, hiding the dents, painting over the rust, terrified that if she sees the damage beneath, she will turn away in disgust. And so, we present ourselves as perfect porcelain dolls, strong, capable, invulnerable, and utterly, soul-crushingly boring. We become objects of admiration, perhaps, but never subjects of investment. Her investment does not begin when she decides you are perfect. It begins the moment she glimpses your beautiful, authentic damage. This is the principle of the sacred wound. The wound is the part of you that has been broken and has healed incorrectly. It is the scar from a childhood trauma, the limp from a failed ambition, the melancholy that haunts you on a Sunday afternoon. It is your non-negotiable weirdness. It is the part of you that you are most convinced is unlovable, and it is the source of all your power. Because in a world of curated profiles and polished surfaces, a genuine wound is the last bastion of the authentic self. It is the one thing that cannot be faked. Think of the ancient Japanese art of kintsugi. When a precious bowl is broken, they do not throw it away. They painstakingly piece it back together, and they fill the cracks with molten gold. The result is a piece that is not only functional, but more beautiful, more valuable, and more unique than it ever was in its original, perfect state. The scars are not hidden, they are illuminated. They become the most important part of the object's history and its beauty. You must learn to see your wounds as veins of gold. You do not reveal them through pathetic, needy confession. You don't cry on her shoulder on the second date about how the world has wronged you. That is the boy's way. The man's way is to simply let it exist, to not hide it, to answer a question honestly, without shame, to have a darkness in your eyes that you don't try to explain away, to have a story of failure that you tell with a wry, knowing smile, not a plea for pity. This is not weakness. It is a terrifying form of strength. It says, "This is me, all of me, the broken parts and the healed parts. I have survived this, and I do not need you to fix it. But you are welcome to look." When a woman encounters this kind of unapologetic imperfection, a strange, primal instinct is triggered. It is the urge to understand, to nurture, to heal. She wants to pour her own gold into your cracks. She wants to be the one who gets the real you. Her ego becomes entangled in the story of your damage. Her investment is no longer a choice, it is a compulsion. She's not trying to fix you for your sake. She's doing it for hers, to prove she is the one who can. This is the fragile hope buried in the heart of this darkness. Your greatest pain can be the source of your most profound connection. Your wound is a filter. It repels the superficial, the tourists who are only looking for a perfect, easy vacation. And it acts as a beacon for the rare soul who has the depth to appreciate the beauty of a mended thing. It is a key that unlocks a level of intimacy that the perfect men, with their shining, empty armor, can never even dream of. They are playing checkers in the sunlit world, while you are playing chess in the beautiful gilded shadows of the human soul. So, I ask you this, not as a challenge, but as a quiet invitation to the truth. Look down at your own hands. Metaphorically, of course. See the calluses, the scars, the lines etched there by your own life. Now, what beautiful, tragic, magnificent ruin are you hiding from the world, convinced it makes you unworthy? And do you, at last, have the courage to stop hiding it, to simply let it be, and to trust that the right eyes will not see a flaw, but a story they desperately want to read to the end? The man who needs nothing is the man who is offered everything. Here's a joke for you. What's the difference between a beggar and a god? A beggar kneels before a woman and says, "Please, love me. I have nothing without you." He holds out an empty bowl, his life, and begs her to fill it. A god, well, a god doesn't even notice her at first. He's too busy creating galaxies, forging mountains, listening to the symphony of his own thoughts. His life is already full. He is not a void seeking to be filled. He is a universe, expanding. If she wishes to enter his orbit, she may. But her presence or absence changes nothing about the nature of his universe. And who do you think she becomes obsessed with? The whimpering beggar with the empty bowl? Or the distant, self-contained god? We live in an age of beggars. Men whose entire sense of self-worth is outsourced. Their happiness is a delicate little flower they hand to a woman, pleading, "Here, please keep this alive for me. I can't do it myself." It's a pathetic, crushing burden to place on another human being. And it is the absolute antithesis of attraction. Attraction is not a negotiation, it is a reaction. And women, like the sea, do not react to weakness. They react to immovable objects. They crash against the cliffside, not because they hate the cliff, but because its unyielding strength is the only thing that makes them feel the true extent of their own power. You must become the cliff, the anchor in the storm. This is the truth of radical, soul-deep indifference. I don't mean the petty indifference of a player who waits 3 hours to text back. That is a tactic. It is a performance of indifference, and like all bad acting, it reeks of effort. I am talking about a genuine, philosophical indifference to the outcome. Born from a life so rich, so meaningful, and so utterly yours that her approval is a pleasant but non-essential bonus. It is the indifference of the old clockmaker in a forgotten village in the Black Forest. The legend says this man made the most beautiful clocks in the world. People said they didn't just tell time, they held it. But he never advertised. He never sought praise. He lived alone in a workshop filled with the scent of pine shavings and gear oil, surrounded by the gentle, constant ticking of 1,000 tiny hearts. He would spend weeks on a single gear, not because he wanted to impress a customer, but because the gear itself demanded perfection. His purpose was not to sell clocks. His purpose was the sacred, monastic act of making them. People, especially the wealthy women from the cities, would travel for days to see him. They would enter his workshop and find themselves silenced, not by his authority, but by his absorption. He was an anchor, a fixed point of purpose in their chaotic world of social games and fleeting validation. They didn't just want his clocks. They wanted a piece of his unshakable peace. They wanted to matter to the man to whom nothing and no one seemed to matter more than his work. This is the state you must cultivate. As Schopenhauer grimly noted, to place our happiness in the hands of another is to invite suffering, because the will of another is a territory you can never conquer. The only path to tranquility is to find your center of gravity within yourself. What is your clock making? What is the one thing you would do even if you were the last man on earth? Is it your business, your art, your physical discipline, your intellectual pursuits? Find it and chain yourself to it like a monk to his god. When you have that, you move differently. You walk into a room not as a supplicant, but as an observer. You listen to her stories not with the desperate ear of a man trying to find the right thing to say, but with the detached curiosity of a scholar. You are not performing for her validation. You are simply there, a self-contained reality. A recent meta-analysis, one of those dry 2025 papers that accidentally stumbles upon ancient wisdom, found that individuals with a high degree of intrinsic motivation and a strong internal locus of control are consistently rated as more desirable long-term partners. They called it psychological self-sufficiency. I call it being the god, not the beggar. When she feels your indifference, your true, deep, non-reactive indifference, it will drive her mad. It is a psychic irritant. It is a challenge to her own power of attraction. She will try to break it. She will test you, provoke you, offer you validation, and then snatch it away, just to see if you will flinch. She is the storm, and she is trying to see if the anchor will drag. When it doesn't, when you remain calm and unmoved, rooted in the bedrock of your own purpose, that is when respect is born. And it is out of that respect that true, deep, lasting investment grows. So let me ask you a question that might sting. When you are not with her, when the phone is silent and the house is empty, what is left? Is it just a gaping, hollow silence, filled with the ghost of her presence? Or is there the gentle, reassuring ticking of your own clocks? What cathedral are you building inside yourself that is so vast, so beautiful, and so sacred that her presence is merely a visitor in the pews and not the God upon the altar? Don't show her who you are. Show her who she could be. The mirror shows a stranger's face, a hero from a forgotten place. She falls in love, a tragic art, not with my soul, but with her heart. Reflected in my patient eyes and dressed in beautiful, quiet lies. The greatest mistake in the art of seduction is the obsession with self-revelation. We are desperate to be known. We vomit our histories, our opinions, our entire personalities onto the table, hoping she will find some morsel in that messy pile to admire. We believe the goal is to make her fall in love with us. This is vanity, and it is hopelessly naive. The truth is far more subtle and far more cruel. You do not make her invest in you. You make her invest in the version of herself that exists only when you are around. You are not the painting, you are the frame. You are not the song, you are the concert hall, the acoustics that make the music sound divine. You are, in essence, a beautifully crafted echo chamber. Think of the old myth of Narcissus. He falls in love with his own reflection in a pool of water. The story is told as a warning against vanity, but they always forget the other character in that myth. Echo, the nymph who could only repeat the last words spoken to her. The gods were clumsy. The true artist of seduction does not simply echo what is said. He becomes a more interesting pool of water. He reflects not what she is, but what she secretly, desperately wants to be. Every person walks through the world with an unwritten novel in their heart, starring an idealized version of themselves. She is not just a woman working in an office. In her novel, she is a tragic poet, a wild adventuress, a mysterious femme fatale, a nurturing saint. Most of the world, through its dullness and practicality, forces her to forget her own protagonist. They interact with the cover of her book, the boring, everyday character. Your job is to read the secret first chapter. To listen, not to her words, but to the emotions, the dreams, the vanities hiding behind them. And then, you reflect that character back at her, with one small, intoxicating distortion. If she has a hint of artistic melancholy, you don't say, "You seem a little sad." You say, "There is a beautiful, old-world sadness in your eyes, like you belong to another century." You have just transformed her mundane ennui into tragic, romantic depth. You have made her the heroine of a Gothic novel. If she has a spark of rebellious fire, you don't say, "You have a temper." You say, "There's a dangerous freedom in you. I get the sense you'd burn the world down for something you believe in." You have just turned her petulance into righteous, revolutionary passion. This is not flattery. Flattery is cheap and obvious. It complements what is already there. This is a form of psychic alchemy. You are taking the base metal of her personality and reflecting it back as gold. You are creating a space, an echo chamber, where she gets to experience herself as her own ideal. She becomes addicted not to you, but to the feeling she gets when she is with you. The feeling of being truly seen, not as she is, but as she wishes she was. It is the most powerful narcotic in the world. Kierkegaard, in his Seducer's Diary, understood this perfectly. The seducer, Johannes, does not conquer his prize, Cordelia. He orchestrates a world around her. He becomes the stage manager of her life, creating scenarios, writing letters, engineering chance encounters that allow her to feel the full spectrum of romantic, poetic emotion. He makes her the star of her own tragedy. He makes her invest in the story, and he just happens to be the author. This is a dangerous and morally ambiguous art. It requires a profound detachment, a willingness to see the ego of another as an instrument to be played. You must be the mirror, and the mirror can have no face of its own. It requires you to sublimate your own desperate need to be seen, and instead, to become the ultimate seer. But the investment it generates is absolute. Because if she leaves you, she doesn't just lose you. She loses that glorious, intoxicating reflection of herself. She is cast out of her own novel and forced back into the dull prose of everyday life. And she will do almost anything to avoid that. So, here is my question for you, whispered across the darkness. Every person you meet is wearing a mask. The amateur tries to rip it off, demanding to see the real face. The artist knows the mask is more interesting. The art is to whisper to the mask, to give it a name, a story, a soul of its own, until it forgets it's a mask at all. What intoxicating story are you whispering to her mask tonight? What beautiful lie are you telling her about herself that she will invest her entire soul in, just to make it true? The game is not to win her. It is to become unwinnable. I have sat in rooms like this for years, and I have watched them all parade by. The peacocking players with their memorized lines and their hollow eyes. The tortured poets who mistake their own misery for depth. The kings of industry who believe a mountain of gold can purchase a human soul. They all come seeking the same thing. The secret to winning her. They learn the tactics. They study the philosophies. They practice the techniques of absence and reflection. They spend their entire lives learning the rules of a game that is rigged from the start. And they miss the final, devastating, and liberating truth. The only way to truly win is to stop needing to play. All the strategies we have discussed, the gravity of absence, the power of the wound, the anchor of indifference, the echo chamber of desire, they are all tools. And like any tool, they can be used to build something beautiful, or they can become a cage. For most men, they become a cage. They become a new, more sophisticated form of seeking, a new performance. They are still the beggar. But now he is wearing a silk robe and pretending to be a god. The stench of need still clings to him. The final insight, the one that dissolves all the others, is this. The ultimate source of masculine power, the true anchor of the soul, is not a woman's investment. It is a man's profound and unshakable comfort with his own solitude. This is not the bitter, resentful solitude of the man who has been rejected, nor is it the fearful, lonely solitude of the man who has not yet been chosen. This is the sacred, sovereign solitude of the man who has walked through the fire of his own neediness and come out the other side, realizing that his own company is the only thing he can never lose. He has built an inner citadel, a walled garden in the center of the chaotic, screaming city of the world. Inside this garden, he cultivates his own thoughts, his own peace, his own purpose. The air is clean, the sun is warm. He is the king, the gardener, and the soil. His happiness is not contingent on who is or isn't visiting the garden. He finds joy in the texture of the leaves, the scent of the earth, the silent companionship of his own being. This is the hope, not fleeting, but eternal. The discovery that you are, and have always been, enough. When a man reaches this state, something miraculous happens. His neediness evaporates. Not just the obvious, pleading neediness, but the subtle, manipulative neediness that underpins even the most sophisticated game. He stops seeing women as objectives to be acquired or voids to be filled. He sees them as other sovereign beings with their own gardens. He can admire her garden, perhaps even visit it, and he can invite her to visit his. But he has no desire to conquer her land, to own her flowers, to merge his garden with hers into a single, codependent entity. His self is not up for negotiation, and this is the most attractive state a man can inhabit, because it is free. A woman who meets a man like this feels a sense of peace she has never known. She is not being evaluated. She is not being targeted. She is not a prize to be won. She can relax her defenses because she senses there is nothing to defend against. He doesn't need anything from her. And because he needs nothing, she is free to give everything. His lack of need becomes the open space in which her true desire can finally blossom. He has mastered what the philosophers called the pathos of distance, the love for another that is so great, it honors their separateness. All the Machiavellian tactics become obsolete. He is naturally absent because he is joyfully lost in his own world. His wounds are sacred because he has already healed them himself with the gold of self-acceptance. His indifference is authentic because his happiness is truly located elsewhere. He reflects her best self back at her without trying because he is so free of his own ego that he can truly see her. He becomes unwinnable, unpossessable. He is like the mountain. You can admire it, you can climb it, you can even build a house on it. But you can never own the mountain. And that is why it will haunt your dreams forever. So, we come to the end of our little talk, you and I. After all the chasing, all the games, all the strategies, all the heartache and the fleeting triumphs, you will eventually find yourself standing before one final door. It is not the door to her bedroom, nor the door to her heart. It is a simple, unadorned door, and behind it, there is a quiet room containing only you for the rest of eternity. The question, the final question that dissolves all others, is this: are you terrified to open it? Or are you, at long last, coming home?